Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Have Game Will Travel. I'm your host, Bennett Newsome, also known as DamnitBennett out there on the internet. As the Director of Esports Growth and Development here at Postell University, I'm passionate about exploring the diverse world of esports and gaming beyond just skill level. Whether this is your first time here at Have Game Will Travel or you're a returning fan, we're thrilled to have you kind of join us for this virtual journey through industry experience of industry professionals. So get ready to engage with our guests and learn from their perspective. Remember to submit your questions in the chat. If you have them, we'll get them featured on the stream and answered. But sit back, enjoy the ride as we kick off another episode of Have Game Will Travel. Today, I would love to introduce our next guest, Lyndsay Postell. She is the partnership manager at DreamHack. Lyndsay, go ahead and introduce yourself and just kind of tell everybody what you do.
Yeah, so hi everybody. My name, like you just said, is Lyndsay Postell. I'm the product manager of partnership integration for DreamHack North American festivals. I also oversee Magic the Gathering, Fortnite. I help a lot with the accessibility, chill zones, that kind of stuff, and just pretty much anything I can help with. So yeah, that's my quick business intro.
Awesome. Well, full disclosure, this episode was supposed to be a couple weeks ago prior to DreamHack San Diego, which I obviously was at. I got to see you. It was awesome seeing you in person again. So unfortunately, we didn't get to plug a bunch of stuff that was leading up to that, but we'll still talk about it today. I'm really excited to have you here. I think kicking it off, what really kind of got you interested in gaming? And was there anything that sparked, wanting to be in the world of gaming and entertainment?
Yeah, I always love getting this question because I feel like my story is a little bit different. So of course I have memories of like when I was a kid and like I would watch my older sister like playing Spyro on our like family computer, and like we would almost break it like each time because it's like one of those like pre-made Dell like 2001 computers.
Right.
But like what really got me into gaming, like I always had an interest in it, but I actually had a spinal reconstructive surgery where I couldn't walk for about 3 years. And during that time, you're obviously just kind of stuck in a apartment, just kind of trying to pass the time while you're recovering. And you're in PT and all that stuff. And so one of my friends, one of my exes at that time, got me an Xbox because I think they were like, hey, I love you so much, but like do something else aside from like spam me with like memes and stuff. And so I started playing PUBG. And then I posted on Facebook and I was like, hey, who plays PUBG, whatever. And then like one of my cousins that I didn't even know was a gamer, like we started gaming. And then while I was kind of stuck in my apartment, I started making graphics for my stream. And then, people were asking about the graphics and I started making graphics for other streamers. And then I started making graphics for local events. And then when I was able to get out there and walk again, I went to these events and I helped with like social media and marketing, which became event marketing, which became just like tumbled into event management, and then working with partners to sponsor events, and then partner management. And so the story goes. So, so that's definitely how I got in there. But if anyone's looking for a good story-based game, Borderlands 2 every day. I've played that. I think I've played it like 14 times at this point with my friends.
I love it. And that's, I mean, that's such a, a unique kind of entry point into the world of gaming but also probably not unique in the same sense that a lot of people have a similar story of, having to be somewhere and they couldn't leave, they couldn't do something. And they found gaming, they found a community online that really kind of helped them get there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, it's kind of the unsung hero, but I think that gaming is a really kind of accessible way for people to be able to socialize and communicate. And so I think that a lot of people with accessibility needs kind of find their love for gaming because of that. Because, I know for myself, like I can be insecure about my or about my disabilities or what might happen, but you know, behind gaming, you're just a username playing with other people, and
Right.
it's a really safe place. And and we continue to foster that. Of course, we all know like the Halo 3 Xbox chats that weren't like the
Unfortunately,
safest,
yes.
but but yeah, so anyway, yeah, I agree. I think it's gaming is such a cool platform for multiple people to be able to reach each other.
Now, obviously, with our show, we talk a lot about your journey into the industry and getting there. You studied at the University of Cincinnati, Cincinnati's College Conservatory of Music. I'm having a hard time
It's a
talking today.
mouthful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about your college years. I mean, obviously, was gaming part of that as well, or is music your
Yeah,
first passion?
absolutely. Hi everybody in the chat. I'm seeing like everybody responding. You guys are so sweet. But yeah, so University of Cincinnati, as I like to call it, not because it's gross or anything, it's just, our name. And then going to CCM, going to CCM was one of my dreams since I was a kid. And when I finally got accepted into CCM, like I was, the happiest person in the world. So I studied electronic media, which was kind of like an umbrella for graphic design,
Yeah.
videography, cinematography, game development. Actually, I did a minor in game development. And so when I first went to college in 2015, I then dropped out like a year later because I had my surgery. And that's when I found, that love of
Right.
gaming. But then when I came back, I was like all in for, the gaming clubs and, my fellow nerds and like the hangouts there. And yeah, it was really fun. I think gaming really was another thing that helped me through college because you have these giant, like University of Cincinnati has all these different discords, and I'm really big into Valorant. So we had, I was in the Valorant Discord and I was gaming with everybody there. And they just actually built an esports lab that opened, of course, right after I graduated.
Right.
But yeah, it was definitely a part of kind of sanity throughout college, especially when you're doing those big capstones. And I will plan on potentially going back for a master's in design or who knows what at this point.
I like it. Yeah, and I think that's a really true statement. You talk about like gaming clubs and things, and obviously, I would love to talk more about your involvement during your college years in the gaming clubs, because I think it's such an easy place to meet like-minded individuals that
Yeah.
Are also probably on their own for the first time, maybe, in college, and they didn't come with all of their friends. So, meeting new people that have the similar interest is always a thing that I think is super important. We do that every month here at Full. So we have a Armada club gathering, and all, everybody just it's kind of a BYOC type of event, and we set things up, and everybody has a fun time and plays games and eats pizza or whatever. And it's a really fun event. So, I would love to hear about kind of your experience in that world.
Yeah, I think that like going back to college after I had to drop out from my surgery was weird because I came back as like not like an old student, but like older. Like it's not a typical path, right?
Right.
Like so I definitely felt a bit out of place with going to class, and like everyone was sitting next to me and they were all like 18, 19, and I'm like 24, 25 or whatever I was. Um, and so I was looking for ways to kind of get connected on campus and just, like have the college experience of being able to make friends and kind of grow with them. And so luckily I heard about the gaming clubs actually. Well, one, my husband back in the day also went to UC and he created one of the gaming clubs, but it was
Okay.
for and then that kind of went off to be the League of Legends player, or club, which I'm not a big like league player.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I know it exists, but um a couple people in my classes were in I think it was the Valorant club or just the UC Esports club. And so I wasn't super active in person because I also had a full-time job and I
Right.
wasn't able to like go. But the few events I went to were phenomenal, and I was really active online. So like anytime I needed someone to game with, or they just had like a study channel, you know, we would just hang out in there. And it really, like I said before, it really got me personally through college was my other gaming friends because you're like, okay, one more round of Valorant, and then we're doing an hour of homework, and then we can play another.
I like that strategy. That's better than my strategy. It was like, oh, we'll just do one more game, you know?
Yeah, just keep going, which it's a great theory, but you know, at the end of the day, absolutely you do end up playing the extra game. Yeah. But so yeah, I think the involvement of gaming, and even just as a casual player, because I'm not very competitive, I'm like hard stuck Iron 3 and proud, you know, in Valorant. You know, having that experience in college was just a really great comfort as I was going through things. And you know, I was working for a more grassroots organization at that time based in Columbus, and I was able to invite people out to these events, and then it was just really cool being able to kind of, you know, that moment where you make online friends and then you merge them in real life, right? And all because of UC, go Bearcats. So so yeah, the experience is definitely something I'm very thankful for. And there's still people I talk to this day and I game with to this day. And yeah, I think like bringing gaming into colleges is just an absolutely valuable experience for everybody, even if it's just online.
Yeah, and I feel like it's kind of meeting your students where they're at, you know? Like, they're already doing this. This is something they're already doing. Why not support it in a positive way, and provide opportunities in that field, you know? I felt like that's always like the no-brainer, right? It's like, oh, if that's where they're at, let's go over there, you know, hang out.
Yeah.
But you know, obviously for you, you know, you mentioned earlier that you you know, kind of started from the bottom and rose your way up through the ranks at DreamHack. Talk to us a little bit about what inspired you to pursue the world of you know, gaming and esports and festivals and working at DreamHack.
Yeah, I think it was after being stuck in my apartment for 3 years, pretty much.
You wanted out.
Yeah, like I went to my first gaming event, and it was like a local, I don't even remember the name of it. I remember my friend who brought me, but it was just like a local league, like LAN. And it was like they were in a cafeteria. Everybody had like laptops, and like some people brought projectors. And I mean, you know how it is, like the small LANs, you know. And I remember being like, this is pretty much the coolest thing I've ever seen, you know? And I went to a couple in high school, but I was still one of those like, no, I can't say I game out loud. People will like crucify me, you know? But, you know, as you become an adult, you're like, let them crucify me. That's fine. I like what I like.
Exactly.
And so as I kind of went to that first LAN, I started talking to people, and then I went to a event in Columbus at Game Arena Hilliard.
Okay.
And it was like there were just like people zooming around and having a great time, and it was all about gaming. And you would think like if everyone's sitting at these computers, like they're not really socializing, but like that was my thought going into it, like this might be kind of awkward. But then I walked in, and it's like people are like, you know, cheersing across the aisle and like reaching over their computers to like high five, and like there were people just like walking around, and it just like that energy, just immediately I was like, shoot, I'm obsessed, you know. And so as any opportunity I could, I just continued trying to go to these events and try to like get that, like, I don't want to say high, that sounds like a bad word, like but like get this like socialization and like this like energy, I think is a better word, this like, you know, high volume energy that you get from these events. So then I actually started working for Game Arena and Esports Foundry, and was lucky enough to be able to like travel out to these like beautiful events that we did. And as I started going from kind of the front facing attendee to the back end of it, and seeing like all of the work that comes into just a single event, or just even like having one caterer there, or, you know, whatever the element is, like that's exactly how my brain works is, you know, like we're going to stack all these blocks so we can make a tower. But if one block is off, then the whole thing
Right.
falls. And so I just continued, you know, following that passion through marketing and through social media at first, because that's what I was, you know, really good at. But I started wanting to be more on the event management side. And it just, like, we just kept kind of moving up the chain because I kept throwing myself in these new positions and new events. And yeah, I think it was just kind of that rush of the events that kept me around. And like, even though we just had DreamHack San Diego literally 3-4 days ago, it just ended, like I'm, you know, we're of course already working with the team on Dallas, and I'm already missing the team so much. And I think that's another part of working in esports is not only the rush of and the energy of the event, but like this team that you work so hardcore with on the back end, you get to go to these events and actually see them and hug them and say thank you in person. And
see like your whole, like everything that you've worked towards for the last months or years come to fruition is pretty cool too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, for example, Magic the Gathering. I have it pretty much becoming one of my closest friends is my project manager, John Carter, who goes by Carter. And him and I worked just absolutely tirelessly to like get, you know, the space that we were in and like set everything up and make sure that everything was like the player was thought of first. And then seeing the just like seeing everybody sitting there and having fun and like standing next to Carter and being like, we did that.
Yeah.
That's really cool. You know, like there's always kind of those moments, and there's always fires, but it's always worth it for those small, like, look at us, you know, kind of moments. So I feel like I've been rambling. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. This is perfect. This is absolutely what we want. I do. This isn't necessarily like a question that we normally put up on screen, but I feel like we have to pull this one up simply because your friend Carter that I believe you're talking about is calling you out.
Oh my God. Yeah. Hi, Carter. Yeah. I still have my bands on there. I'm terrible at that. I'll go to like a concert or like an event and I will keep these on for until I get annoyed with them. So I always have like a stack of like bracelets and stuff on. And I'm getting close because these little fishtails here getting annoying when I'm typing. But
I always keep them loose enough that I can just kind of like slip them on. So I have a whole thing over here of all the different badges and wristbands of everything I've ever been to. So.
On the back of my door, I have like all of the badges that I've ever gone to, and it's extended to the other side of the door. And I need to hang something up for all these badges and stuff and bracelets and all the memorabilia. But yes, I'm still wearing it. And no, I have no idea when I'm going to take it off.
I love it. So let's back up a little bit because I want to kind of focus on some of the other things that you did, you know, through this journey. You worked in like various roles in marketing and community engagement, you know, for esports organizations. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced in those roles, and how did you overcome them?
I think that, and this is not to anyone that I worked with. This is more the community itself. Unfortunately, still being, you know, a woman in gaming can be really tough. And I feel like the moment that people would figure out that like I was the community gamer or community manager, or like, you know, I was doing XYZ, it was like immediately discredited. And that was always really tough, especially, you know, my husband, who's my best friend, and I'll, you know, never say a bad word about him, but like he's been in esports longer than I have. And like I was in esports before we started dating, but multiple times, specifically in my past, not so much since I've started at DreamHack, many people will just be like, oh, so like Chris got you that job and then da-da-da. And it's like, no, actually, like let me explain you something real quick. But I think that was really tough, but that also led me to finding other like marginalized gendered people in the community, and I feel like I've seen such a beautiful shift in the past like year or two of people just like in voice chats or whatever just absolutely standing up against that. And so I think that was hard, and I think that sometimes when you're looking for work in gaming, um, I would have colleagues that would get the same job offer as me that were not a marginalized gender, and it would be X amount more,
Yeah.
And unfortunately it just happens. But like, I really have seen a really positive shift in the past year or two where that's not happening nearly as much. And of course it's still there, but I think that was one of my, my biggest kind of struggles. I think another one is just, making sure that you're valuing your own time in esports. Anyone who works in esports knows what a 12 plus hour day feels like. And to 12 plus hours, we're like, yeah, that's normal. 24 hours with like barely any sleep sounds, I'm ready.
It's a Tuesday,
Yeah, it's a Tuesday. Exactly. And like one of my friends literally yesterday was Snapchatting me and saying like, do you really work in esports if you don't do 12 plus hour days and da da da. And we were joking about it. And I think that was that was a really hard transition for me. Now again, I thrive for that because I'm like, oh, it was only 8 hours. Are we done? But it's kind of finding those healthy boundaries of like valuing yourself over, over a product or something. And I think that's something that I've become a really big advocate about, especially if, anyone that I work with or anyone on my staff, I'm always like, hey, I totally understand that before we used to run and just keep running until 13, 14 hours, but like it's 8 hours, like go enjoy yourself, go have fun. And I think a lot of people, especially in collegiate, might run into like some funding issues because it's like you can't hire multiple staff or pay for multiple staff because in collegiate, like the funding is a war to get, as I'm sure you know. And so I think my main struggles have been that is like learning to respect my own boundaries and value myself and my staff, keeping healthy boundaries, and also really being an advocate for myself as a woman in gaming, and having to remind myself that, we're not any less, and that kind of stuff. And obviously, a lot of people don't actually think that, but it, that can be really tough and it can be discouraging. And if anyone's listening that is of a marginalized gender, even just feeling discouraged, like my DMs are always open. I always say this when I'm talking to people, like, don't give up just because of like some internet trolls, So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, it shows too. I mean, you won the top community activation award for DEI and women's rights activism in esports and gaming from the gamers in 2021. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, that's a huge honor, and I think you're leading by example, obviously, helping really pave a way for that in the space, because it really does need it. And like you said, it's slowly getting better, but there's still a lot. There's still a lot of road work to be done.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Well, thank you. First of all, you've done your research. Wow. Yeah, when I got that award, I remember I was sitting in my living room and I was like chilling with, I think I was with one of my sisters, I think. And I remember just getting the email and being like, because the issue and kind of disparity of, gender rights and equality that we have in gaming is huge. And so honestly, what I feel like I've done is comparatively extremely small to what needs to be done. And so getting that award was like, wait, do I really deserve this? Is that, but it was just a huge honor. Like I just was beaming ear to ear, and I don't have it in this office. So one thing, mental health hack for you all. have, if you can, I know not, but I have my gaming PC and then I have my like work laptop downstairs. And so I have that award downstairs, like on my desk. I stare at it every day. And, I'm very, very proud of that. But, and I think the Gamers is a really like their mission is phenomenal. So is WIGI, Women's International Gaming Initiative, I believe is what it is. And, those organizations really are pushing that boundary and just huge advocates. So to get recognized by them was huge. Absolutely. It was just like the biggest dub, if you will.
Yeah. And you worked hard for it too. And so I think that's a really important piece, is that it was well earned. And obviously you've continued to move forward with that, like, and preach that message. I mean, just saying alone, hey, my DMs are open, like, being there for other people is such a huge part of what the work that you're doing. So
that's so sweet. Thank you for saying that.
Of course. Obviously, your career continues to evolve, and you've done a bunch of different things, but you go back to your communication and media studies that you talked about doing graphic design and learning different things when you weren't able to do a whole lot of other things. How do you feel like that kind of helped prepare you for the career that you find yourself in now?
That's a great question. So honestly, the gaming community is made up of every single walk of life, every single, background, and, creed, religion, whatever it might be. And I think that, like, going back to my marketing history and like working with community management, and also, my degree and like various types of game development, like one of the biggest things that we talked about was like accessibility when I was learning that, how to make games accessible, how to make social posts accessible, closed captioning, alternative text, anything, seizure warnings, making sure that lighting is done a certain way so it doesn't, potentially affect anyone who might have epilepsy. And so I think when I think about like community management, that's always been my core, is like making sure whatever I do is accessible but patient.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if that person is like, maybe that person just had a fight with their brother, sister, mom, dad, husband, wife, whatever, and they're coming in and they're like, hey, this community sucks, da 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 da. Like, don't match hate with hate, match hate with patience. And I think that's something that's always been really important to me, is just making sure that everything I do is met with patience. And sometimes that is really hard for my, like, to do on my own. I am like, if you've ever seen me at an event, like, you've got like 10 seconds to talk and then I gotta go, And so like, I feel bad.
I just experienced that. I was like, oh my God, hi.
I know. I was like, hi, it's so good to see you. I'll be right back. And then I was like gone. And, but I think that, like, working in communications and working in marketing, you see everything from the mom who's reaching out about a Fortnite birthday party to a kid who's nervous to come to an event, but it's like their first event and they're traveling alone. And I think it's just being able to have an open mind, and community management and social media marketing, all of that kind of let me tap into that. But another cool thing about marketing is obviously you try to learn about how the brain works. Like, how do people want to see this so we can get to events? And like, I've always said that it's like the most polite manipulation that you can ever do is marketing. Like, because it is, it's, one of those, everything under capitalism is evil, but like, like, you have to kind of think like, okay, if I was someone who is stressed out about an event, what post can I make for this? Or if I was, a mom that was coming with my kids, what events do I want to see, or activities do I want to see? So I think marketing allows you to start to kind of open your mind even wider and think about like all of the different people that come to the event, not just like, for me, the other casual gamers out there, so marketing in a weird way really like opened up my mind. And it's a lot of work, like social media and marketing is super tedious work. So like shout out to people who are in there. I've done my years. I think I'm good on it, but yeah, I hope that all makes sense.
Did you take any esports specific type of classes when you were in school, or were they all
So
kind of focused in that same broader spectrum?
So I know that there's been whispers at UC, and I don't know if this is public, but it's fine because I'm not involved. But there's been whispers that I've heard from other students that they're working on an esports certificate, which, there's lots of feelings about getting education in esports. I didn't do anything academically with esports. It wasn't something at UC at the time. But I did do a lot of game development stuff.
Okay.
So, which was really cool. But I mean, I think it would be interesting. Like if someone was like, "Hey, do you want to sit in on this class about esports?" Like I would sit in it.
Yeah.
I would want to know what they'd say. No matter how long someone's been in there, I feel like someone could always teach me something new, even if it's like one sentence of advice.
Definitely.
So.
And they may ask for you to come speak to them as part of the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love hearing myself talk, so I'm happy to be wherever.
Awesome. And did you obviously you talked about your volunteering with DreamHack and getting your start there. Were there any internships along the way that you kind of got experience in the gaming and esports industry during college?
Yeah, so during it wasn't necessarily I call these my college years, even though this was part of when I dropped out, but I got this experience during the first year of college. So it was because of college, and during that weird time I was out. I did a lot of internships with like nonprofits around Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati. And a lot of those internships were in marketing or social media. And there was one specifically that was in Northern Kentucky that was event focused. And they had a kind of like a community gaming center that they were opening up that was it wasn't necessarily a LAN center, but it was literally a part of their facility that you could come in. You could kind of like a library card. You could go in and, have that. So I volunteered every time I could to like sit down there and work on social posts while I was down there. And I actually got that internship because of, I think it was like a college job posting, like student internship board. And it was probably one of my favorite internships because, I mean, just my favorite thing about internships in general is that people genuinely do want to help students.
Right.
And it was one of those things where if you're willing to learn, they're willing to teach you. And so I was able to see a lot of cool core like gaming stuff. And then years and years later, I'm helping Game Arena, open their new facility, and it kind of came full circle for me. So absolutely, definitely stay on top of the college job postings because they are legit and they are super cool.
Yeah, and I think that brings a whole world of experience that you could add to what you're doing, right? Like even taking an internship that may not necessarily be the thing that you're really looking for. It gives you that added knowledge, kind of that you can put onto your plate that may take you somewhere where you never know. So obviously we talked about a little bit about this, before, as a woman working in the gaming and esports industry. I'd assume that you probably have faced some unique challenges and obstacles along the way. For anybody else that's out there that are battling those things now, how did you navigate some of those challenges that you may have faced?
I think that a lot of the times it was really helpful to have like a really good mentor or a really good friend that was also in the space. I have a couple women in gaming and esports that I now consider mentors and I look up to. And, when those situations arise, like I do bring those to their attention and kind of get their advice. And sometimes you just need a listening ear. So, I mean, a lot of times I just will talk to those mentors and see what's going on. But again, it's one of those like meet it with patience kind of things. Obviously you don't want to just be a bystander if someone is, treating you incorrectly and just be like, oh, they're having a bad day, I'll let them walk all over me. Not at all. That's the balance of patience and boundaries, right?
Right.
But I think one of the best things is to have a small little community that you can talk to, or even one friend that you can talk to. And if you don't have that friend that you can talk to, reach out to, people at Full Sail at the gaming club, or reach out to the people in your local community. And I promise you, there's going to be more than a billion people that are willing to kind of talk to you and talk about that situation. But also your advisors at your colleges. Genuinely, there were a few times where I would set advisor meetings and I would just be like, this isn't even an academic issue. This is like a career issue. And I know I'm 24 and I'm in college right now, but like, can you, I'm 27 now, but like I distinctly remember a meeting with one of my advisors, and I was talking about an issue that I had in gaming about being a woman, and my advisor was not a woman. But he, talked me through it and gave me some really good advice and how he would reapproach it. And in the weirdest way, I had to reapproach it and put on my like, I'm the man cap, because yeah. So your advisors, and really there's so many resources that I know Full Sail has and stuff like that would be my first step. If you're ever unsure or you're like, this doesn't feel right for me, like talk to somebody about it, even if you, like I said, DMs are open. I'm happy to talk anytime. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. I feel like I derailed a little.
Absolutely. I feel like you have to sometimes put yourself in that vulnerable position to be like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I need help. I have questions, and that takes a lot of courage to even get to that point to ask those things. So great advice, and you're getting lots of love in the chat already. So we do have another question from our resident question asker, Jacob is Nachos. And that question is, what is the best advice for someone building a community via Discord?
Make sure that you have, like, first tip that I always start with is making sure that you have your like security and your bots set up properly. And if you're not comfortable with bots, it's okay to ask someone who is. You just want to make sure that your community is always going to be safe. You're not going to have bot raids. You're not going to be having people harassed in your community or like your Discord. But I think like building out a community in Discord can be really hard at first because it's usually really quiet. And so try to find ways that are just like very passive ways to keep the Discord active. Like in any of the UC Discords that I would build, I would always put a counting channel, and people would just, like put in 1, 2, 3, 4. And it just was like a small little game in the Discord, but it kept people, kind of active and remembering that, it's there. So I would just make sure security is good and everybody feels safe. Set up like roles and games for people so they feel, represented and entertained. And then mod mail really is amazing, because I don't know about you other Discord nerds, but like I do not check my notifications like I should. And mod mail keeps me on top of my stuff. So if you can do mod mail, that's what I would say. I hope that answers that question. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. I don't know what mod mail is. So tell us about mod mail. What is mod mail?
Yeah. So pretty much you can like, a lot of like TOs and stuff will use it, but you can pretty much like set up a ticket and be like, hey, if there's an issue, or hey, if something's going on, then you can submit it through Discord, and then it pretty much gets DM'd to the mod team. It depends on how it's set up, but then the mods can handle it, individually. But I'm much better at seeing my DMs than like notifications in Discord. Right. So that helps me a lot. So there are like, for example, there's ones that are like tournament specific, like Unite. And and a couple like that. But there are more general ones where it's just like, hey, if you just have a question or an issue or need a role and it's not allowing you to get it or whatever,
Right.
like submit this instead of just adding a mod. Like both are fine, but I always miss that. So those are my pro tips.
Definitely. And obviously, you know, that's something that we all come together, you know, as a big part in Discord. That's this offline kind of place from a lot of the gaming communities or content creators or esports. Is there's this area that we can all kind of hang out in, which is great, but it's always got to be a safe space. So, you know, building those things, like you said, is really important. Obviously, at this point now, you've worked in a lot of different roles in the world of esports and gaming, obviously with DreamHack at all. Do you have any of like your favorite kind of moments or experiences from your journey so far from esports events, you know, yet?
Yeah. I mean, one was definitely actually this past weekend with Magic the Gathering. That was one of my favorite moments in like the 7 or 8 years that I've been in the space. Just like seeing again one of those like everything comes together moments. But the one that like really will always be like my favorite moment was there was the I Am Esports movement that happened, and I worked at that time. I was working for Esports Foundry, who is the umbrella company that owns esports gear in a couple different places. And so I reached out and I was working with Esports Gear and Jake Lucky, and we immediately churned out like t-shirts and hoodies that just said I Am Esports, and to like take power back into this like originally very toxic, unhealthy phrase. And I still get pictures to this day of people wearing the I Am Esports t-shirts, and they, you know, and I always respond like, you are esports. Yes. You know, like, but we raised over $3,000 with that. And that went to a, and pretty much TLDR, where that came from, and not to like cite any names or whatever. It was just, a really misogynistic person was saying that women cannot be competitors because of this and that. And they were trying to bring out biological facts that just were not true. And they pretty much said like, esports lives on my shoulders. Like I am esports, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wow, this could be really harmful for the community. And so we turned it out like literally in hours as quickly as we could. We're like, like not today.
Not today.
Yeah, not today. And so we took that money and we put it to a all femme, non-binary, like marginalized gender Valorant tournament that was hosted by Game Arena in Columbus. And we had a phenomenal turnout, and it was like a weekend long event. Almost all of our cast and like team and staff and all that stuff were marginalized gender and just phenomenal human beings. And it genuinely was like, you know, Saturday evening we had like a mixer and DJ come. That's and awesome. Like, you know, we like opened up early so we could do brunch, and it was just so phenomenal. And so it was really cool. We had a couple game changers competing. I felt like a fangirl. I was like, oh my God, it's a game changer. Oh my God. You know, it was really cool. And seeing that all come together. And I still feel like such a crybaby because at the end of the tournament, I was giving my like, you guys did it. Here's the final, you know, whatever, like speech. And I've never cried at a gaming event to this day, except for Venom. I started tearing up. I was like, we did this, guys. I couldn't have done it without your guys' patience and love. And I think I ended that speech like, if you told anyone I was crying here, like, you know, but which of course now I'm like completely like, yeah, I was sobbing like a baby. But yeah, it was really, that was phenomenal. We had, you know, custom jerseys from Esports Gear and all that stuff. Yeah. And that was something that I was like practically a one-woman team by myself until the weekend of. And there, I had a lot of support kind of on the way, but it, you know, that was like an event that I built, and it it was great. So I definitely want to see that happen, and I'm trying to make that happen again.
Well, we love it, and we're huge fans of all of it. Obviously, you can tell in the chat, but there's so many great things that I think have come from moments like that where you turn things around and say, no, absolutely not. We're gonna take it this way, and that's such an important piece of how the gaming scene moves forward, right?
Yeah, and like the whole name of the event, Venom, was like the thought process there. Well, first of all, I can't take credit of this because I know that I think my best friend's watching this right now. She was the one who came up with the name. We were trying to like think of acronyms that had the word Valorant in it, and nothing was like sticking with us. But then I was like, I mentioned something of like, I pretty much want the name to represent like taking away the toxicity and empowering the people. And then she was like, yeah, like Venom. And she said it, and I got so mad. I was like, I was so close. I was right there. And so to this day, she'll be like, I named it, So, so yeah, and that, like every angle was just like overthought to a T. But it was really cool, and I'm really, really hoping that it comes back, and I'm in the talks. So, stay tuned.
Exciting news. Well, let's talk about DreamHack. Obviously, you are now the product manager for partnerships at DreamHack. Tell us a little bit more about this role. What drew you to it? Kind of what are your goals for DreamHack?
So I was working at Esports Foundry, and I love that company so much. Like everyone there, every time I'm able to go back and visit, like it's just hugs, like it's family. We went through fire and back together, as you do in a lot of orgs, and but it was to the point where I was like, I'm ready to grow, and I'm ready to, something to really push me and challenge me and kind of change my way of thinking. So I started looking around, and one of those mentors that I was talking about earlier kind of was like, by the way, I saw this. I thought that, you might be a really good fit for it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So I applied and went through the interview process, and I didn't get the job. And I was like, dang. And it was for a different role at DreamHack. And I was like, man, but that was still awesome that I got that far in the process. That's encouraging, And then I got an email, and they were like, hey, there's this new position that we kind of created. And we want to bring you back in. Like, you were the first person we thought of for it. So I was like, absolutely. And so I got that email. I was so stoked. And then I got married, and no slack to my husband at all on this, but completely stunted the interview process. And so we're on our honeymoon, and small world enough, I see someone literally in Paris that I knew that also works for DreamHack. And they were like, yeah, oh my gosh, like, not to bother you, but like, I heard that they're wanting to do a final interview with you. And I was like, and I like went through my phone, and I immediately responded. And I was like, so I set up my final interview on my honeymoon while I was like sitting in a hotel in Paris. And so of course it's like 2:00 their time and like 3 a.m. where I was. But I was still, of course, like, hi, I'm so happy to talk to you, And so I got a call back later that week. We were then in London, and they were like, yeah, so you get the job. And I was like, oh my God. And I like, it was just phenomenal. I was freaking out. But like what drew me, cause at first I was like, okay, well, I didn't get the first one. That's fine. Right. But then when they were talking to me about this new position, pretty much what the product manager partner integration does is that they have a eagle eye view on the entire festival, and anything third party kind of coming in, they are there to assist integrating it further. So, if we have a new game coming in, well, what if we can bring that on main stage? Or what if we can, activate that with some cosplayers? Or like, what else can we do? It's working with the rest of the product team to make sure we can, elevate that item as much as possible. And so pretty much a lot of my job is being super, super creative. And then I get to hand it off to my amazing project managers and say, here's the scaffolding for this event. go with it. And I just get to support this phenomenal team and the rest of the product managers. Like I would lay my life down for any of them. They are just the sweetest, kindest people in the world. And at the, core of their hearts, it really is gaming and the community. And so what really drew that position to me was that ability to be creative. And a lot of my event management and community management and marketing, you do have to be pretty creative and on the fly with those. And so the ability to be able to work with just everybody and anybody, and have that bird's eye view, I thought was really, really cool. And, when I got the position, I was just elated. And I've been in that same just like cloud nine state ever since. And I'm now, about to go into my third festival.
Yep.
With DreamHack, and it's just a complete honor. Like the entire team, I love all of my past teams, but this team is just so kind, so smart. All of them are just insane. Like there's definitely imposter syndrome some days, because I'll be like, hey, I'm having this issue, and like 3 of them will be like, oh, here's this like insanely creative, simple solution that will absolutely work and it'll actually elevate the community.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, how did you, so the team is so phenomenal. I could go on about DreamHack for forever. I am absolutely, I recognize how lucky I am to be in this position for
Absolutely.
sure.
And I've been to quite a few DreamHacks so far, and I think that this one in San Diego was incredible. It had almost a different aura to it than the previous ones, and not in like a bad way. The other ones were great. DreamHack has always been one of my favorite kind of cons to go to. But this one was really special, and maybe it was San Diego. I don't know. It just had a different vibe, and it really felt good and exciting.
As inside the internal team, like the whole time we were like, this is going to be one of the most unique, complex, content-filled festivals that we've ever done. And it was a challenge, but it was so much fun. And honestly, like after this weekend and just looking back on how everything went and how everybody had so much fun, I know like Adam Answer, he usually photographs as well. And he was saying the same thing of like, he's been to a ton of DreamHacks, and this was by far like one of the best. And I'm really excited. And, it was my first festival was last year at Atlanta, and I was only like 3 months old, if you will,
Right.
But this one was where I had multiple products that I had built from, the ground up in there. And it felt really, really cool. And I thought San Diego, like everyone was so happy with it. We had upwards of 41,000 attendees throughout, which is just like an insane mile marker for us. And just really excited to like, I was telling everyone before the festival, technically I'm considering this one like my first festival, because it's the one where all my brain juice went into it. And I'm not saying it's because my brain juice went into it, but
it could be,
but no, San Diego was freaking phenomenal. I wish that I could just relive it. But we've got to get Dallas moving.
Yeah.
So.
And that's my next question is like, now we're in this transition point, right? And I feel like we could probably talk all day about all things DreamHack, but we're in this transition point to the next festival. So what does your plate look like now, closing one down and then moving to the next?
Yeah. So, I mean, you always want to stop for a moment and reflect and think about obviously all the good, but there's always things that you can improve on. Even if the festival was practically perfect, there's always things that you can grow on. And so it's taking, the roadmap and the content that we have already for Dallas and being like, how can we make it better with what we've learned? And so it really is like the past month has been really funny internally, because every time someone's like, yeah, so at DreamHack, are we doing X, Y, or Z? And we're like, okay, San Diego or Dallas, what are we, because we're planning multiple at a time. But it's been, we're in that period of just being so thankful for an amazing event and reflecting and taking those reflections and just doing everything we can to like bring that same energy to Dallas and like continue improving and growing. And so now it's just, we're back in the weeds now. You know, we're figuring out how many tables we need, how many chairs we need, you know, what signs, you know, so all of the nitty gritty, and, you know, just literally hitting the ground running. And then after Dallas, we'll have a small reprieve because Atlanta isn't until December.
Right.
So that'll be good. But honestly, I love this go energy. It's what I thrive on. So I'm ready for it. We're just gearing up and locking stuff in at this point.
Well, that's great. And I'm very excited for it. Obviously Atlanta is a fun one. It was the first DreamHack that I went to.
Last year?
No. It was a couple years ago, but the stop in Atlanta was the first event, DreamHack event I went to.
I was gonna say, I was like, you've been with DreamHack longer than I have.
I have. It's been a while. So, but that first one always you really remember it, and so I've been a big fan of Atlanta for a while. But obviously went to Dallas last year and had a great time in Dallas. And I still stand by it. And even Adam Antor in chat says felt like one of the best I've been to, and that was his 6th DreamHack. San Diego really felt special. So before we wrap up, obviously I want to give you some time to shout out anything you want, tell people where they can find you, all of those things. But one question that we always ask every one of our guests is, obviously, as the esports and gaming industries continue to grow, there's a ton of students that are entering the career field that really are interested in pursuing this. What sort of advice would you give them as they embark on their journeys into the world of esports and gaming?
Yeah, I would say even if it doesn't have the title gaming or esports in it, get as much experience as you can in various fields. Like, take the social media internship so you can understand what's going on there. Take the like, I don't know, the GA job where or graduate assistant job where you're starting to get that like management and assistant kind of experience. Like, get everything you can on your resume, get all that experience. But also, as a student, make sure that you take time for yourself and to grow relationships and to grow those friendships, because they are friendships that will grow with you. And, you know, people that I went to college with in 2015 are now, you know, we've came up together, and you support each other in every way you can. So not only just on the selfish, like, support each other, but like just to make sure that, you know, you're taking time for yourself. College is really hard, but try to get as much experience as you can. And really just, if you have the emotional capacity and time, just throw yourself into the gaming clubs, because you will walk away with memories that'll last you lifetimes.
Absolutely.
You know, and you will have so much free pizza on your hand, you won't know what to do with it.
Definitely gotta love the free food, you know, especially in college. Well, very cool. Sari says that she loves you. She wanted to make sure I told you that. But tell people where they can find you, how to get in touch with you, all of those types of things.
Yeah, so I'm MissesLucifer on pretty much everything. It was a username I made up when I was like 12. I thought I was so edgy and cool, and now I'm stuck with it because I work in gaming. Yeah, MissesLucifer on literally everything, on Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, all the fun stuff. I'm MissesLucifer X on Instagram. I did message the other MissesLucifer on Instagram, and she's locked out of that account, but she was going to give me the username for the points. Yeah, for the points that, you know, that gives me. But again, my DMs are always open. The only thing that I have to quote promote isn't even a promotion, but just a reminder to be kind to each other. And, you know, you never know what anyone's struggling with. So always take a breath and, you know, go forward with patience and love. So that's my tip.
I love it.
Those are my things.
And absolutely right. Well, thank you guys all for tuning in to Have Game Will Travel. We will be back very soon with another episode. We will see you next time. Thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your weekend.